These are things that I'm in full support of, that Jamaican people should protest and demand change and demand justice, but not in front of the United States Embassy. Just like on YouTube, forgive your brain some new food. Hello people, and welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time on the channel, a special welcome to you. I ask that you check out the rest of my videos. If you like what you see, you give them a thumbs up, leave a comment, but more than anything, I'm asking that you subscribe to the channel. Today's topic is Jamaica missing the point of the Black Lives Matter movement. I came to this conclusion after the last couple weeks, almost 2 weeks now since the killing of George Floyd. And I've seen the protests in all different countries around the world, and I have to give big thumbs up to all the Asian countries, all the European countries, especially the UK, who joined in the march. Obviously, I was looking out to see what Jamaica is going to contribute towards the George Floyd killing, because at the end of the day, it was a black man. And, you know, I wrote a quote once that says, every national represents his or her nationality. So George Floyd, being a black man, represents not only black Americans, but he represents black people around the world. So while waiting for Jamaica to do its part in support of the Black Lives Matter movement, I kept screening the TV, kept screening the internet just to see what they were gonna come out with. And I was disappointed because my initial sighting was of 5 individuals in front of the US Embassy, just 5 people chanting and have their placard to say Black Lives Matter movement. So obviously I was a bit disappointed. But further research led a couple days later for me to see a bigger crowd, you know. It was a bigger crowd, but again, I was not impressed. I was not impressed because Jamaica has approximately 3 million people, and it would have been nice to see at least 1,000 people turn up. And 1,000 people did not turn up at the US Embassy in protest for George Floyd or the Black Lives Matter movement. So obviously I was disappointed. Anyway, the few people that did turn up, the television did interview them, and this is where I concluded that the Jamaican people was missing the point of the Black Lives Matter movement, because the few people that were interviewed, they were talking about local problems in Jamaica. Before I get to that, let me just explain that the Black Lives Matter movement is in combat of a pandemic that long existed before this virus. Most of us have never heard the term pandemic before, but it has always existed. What I mean by that is racism is real, people, and racism exists all across the board. Okay, the Black Lives Matter movement began in the United States of America, and rightly so. Why? The United States of America is the one country that was most impacted by slavery. Slavery existed everywhere else, the UK, and that's how most of us even got to the Caribbean. But we're speaking of the majority, and the majority was in the United States of America. It started from the South, and then it gradually got, I think, halfway up the East Coast. I'm just saying that rightly so, that Black Lives Matter movement started and has a strong hold in the United States of America. However, even though the Black Lives Matter movement used a lot of black Americans was fallen as its cause to protest, I would believe that it doesn't only surround black Americans in the United States of America. Okay, it didn't say Black American Lives Matter. It says Black Lives Matter. So I embrace it where I live. I live in Europe. Black Lives Matter here. Why? Europe is a predominantly white society, and there is racism in Europe. There is racism in Africa. There is racism in Asia. Racism exists all around the world, and for that reason, you see all these other countries like Australia and Japan came out in protest of Black Lives Matter. Yes, George Floyd triggered this. As a matter of fact, George Floyd didn't trigger it. George Floyd was the stick that broke the camel's back. You know, there were so many names before George Floyd that was creating a burden on the racial tension in the United States of America. And George Floyd's passing, being so raw and so savage, that was the one that broke the camel's back, and the floodgates opened up for protests, including the United Kingdom, Switzerland, the Netherlands, Germany, just all over the world. It was a beautiful support, which leads me to Jamaica understanding or misunderstanding of the movement's Black Lives Matter. Jamaicans at the United States Embassy in Jamaica, the few Jamaicans that showed up there, they were talking about local events like Susan Bogle, who got shot and killed in her bed by a JDF personnel. Okay, it's a sad and it's a tragic thing, but that protest should be taken at Jamaica House Gate or the Ministry of Justice office gate. Wherever the Ministry of Justice is in Jamaica, that's where that protest is supposed to be taken, not in front of the United States Embassy. Then there was Jodian Farron, who died in the most inhumane way at one of the hospitals in Jamaica. That protest needs to be taken at the hospital's gate, even if it's all the hospital gates across Jamaica. That's where Jamaicans need to be protest, not at the United States Embassy. I mean, don't get me wrong, I didn't see anyone bringing up the name Jodian Farron at the United States Embassy. I did hear people talking about the classism that exists in Jamaica. The classism that exists in Jamaica existed long before most of these people in the United States of America died. And if it's an issue that Jamaicans really have a problem with, then you take that up with your Jamaican government. Go in front Jamaica House and make a big deal out of it. Go in front all the ministries in Jamaica and make a big deal out of it, if that's the case. Then if you want to burden the system or force the system to shape in a way to work for you. In front of the United States Embassy, they also brought up Noel Chambers, the elderly man that died in the Tower Street Correctional Institution after being detained there for 40 years. That is sickening. Some of the laws were broken there, and so many people need to be held accountable for his passing, for his detention. The United States of America's embassy has nothing to do with the passing of Noel Chambers in the correctional department in Jamaica. The United States of America, that's not their issue. Their issue is things that happen on their soil, their land. And Jamaican issues are things that happen on the soil of Jamaica. While saying that, I did notice that among the protests across the United States of America, there were banners that also had other victims' name on the listing. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I didn't see Botham Jean's name on any of those banners, any of those listings. Botham Jean was the St. Lucian immigrant that was killed by a white female police officer in Dallas, Texas, not so long ago. Like I say, correct me if I'm wrong, but I didn't see his name, I didn't hear his name. I want to know if there is a segregation between fighting for Black American justice or Black Lives Matter. Does indeed that Black Lives Matter all across the globe, all across the board? I'm curious. In closing, I have some bittersweet closing because the Jamaican dancehall artist Spice took to the streets of Atlanta to join the protest, which in my opinion was a good thing. But Jamaican citizens gave her a lot of online backlash for joining the protest in support of Black Lives Matter and the passing of George Floyd. So I don't quite understand what's going on with Jamaican people. They definitely missing the point that Black Lives Matter in Jamaica and around the world. What's the sweet part? The sweet part is there was a Jamaican female that got married in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania during the protest. Her and her husband were in the midst of it, and the Black Lives Matter protesters cheered them on, and after the photo shoot, they briefly joined in protests for Black Lives Matter, putting up the fist and everything. So that is actually a beautiful ending, a beautiful wrap to my vlog. But I'm not going to end it right there. What I'm going to do, I'm going to plead to the Jamaican musician, dancehall musician, and reggae musician, because considering that music is like a sub-school to the Jamaican culture, I have to put it out there to say maybe a lot of Jamaican artists wants to start doing music that teaches the nation about black history and black lives and what's going on around the world. I remember when I was a kid, the artists in my time used to educate us on what's going on. Even Supercat had a song that he schooled us. It was like, the President of America, him name Reagan, and Margaret Thatcher control England. And then we had the whole Free Mandela, you have to free Mandela, that kind of music. And even though it was early dancehall juggling, when you think about it now, they were educational. When you look at the dancehall music today, it's all about guns and girls and cars and money, and there's no teaching in it. There's no fundamental lesson in any of the music. So I'm just putting it out there that maybe Jamaican dancehall artists can look into themselves, do some more research, especially the artists that go and tour around the world and get a broader sighting of what's going on in the world. What's going on in the world. You guys can actually be a contributing fact to the black educational side of Jamaican citizens. I read somewhere that Andrew Holness was disappointed after learning about the conditions of Mr. Noel Chambers and his passing, and now he's considering to build a new prison in Jamaica. That is needed. I did a video not so long ago that says a new prison is needed in Jamaica, even though it was not for that reason. My reason was because I would like to see politicians, people of status, start going to prison in Jamaica. No one should be above the law. While I was reading that, I learned that the reason why Jamaica did not accept the prison proposal from the United Kingdom was, first and foremost, David Cameron, the former Prime Minister of the UK, wanted Jamaica to foot the bill at 60%, while they would give Jamaica $5 billion. But while giving Jamaica $5 billion towards their prison, they wanted Jamaica to agree that 300 Jamaicans that were being incarcerated in the United Kingdom would finish the last 18 months of their sentence in Jamaica. And at the time, the Jamaican Labour Party, who was the opposing party, object to that, and I could not agree more of that objection. Is the United Kingdom crazy? If someone commits a crime in a country, that's where they commit their crime, and that's where they're supposed to fulfill their time. So that's the reason why that prison proposal was not agreed upon. But like I say, Andrew Holness said he's going to build a new prison. Anyway, people, as you know on my channel, I appreciate thumbs up and thumbs down, agreement and disagreement, because at the end of the day, each one teach one. St. Lucian immigrant that died by the hands of a white police female. Hello people, and welcome back to the channel. If this is Jamaica missing the point of the Black Lives, rightly so, that Black Lives Matter. And there are racism. I did hear people talking about the classism You've reached the end of my video, and that in itself is a support that I truly appreciate. And while I'm at it, I will take this time out to let you guys know other ways that you can support my channel. The first and simplest way that you can support my channel is by giving this video a thumbs up. And the second and most important way that you can support this channel is by hitting that subscribe button and subscribe to my channel and follow me through my YouTube journey. Other ways that you can support my channel is by going to my Teespring online store and buying some of my merch. And another way that you guys can also support this channel is by joining me in Patreon to give me a contribution to support what I do on YouTube and what I do to entertain you guys. Once again, I want to thank you guys for your continuous support and ask that you join me, Ian T. Sebast, on YouTube and see where my journey takes me. Until next time, people. Peace.